The Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. includes a permanent exhibit of presidential portraits. Former gallery director Marc Pachter gave American History TV a tour of a portion of the exhibit to discuss the art and politics of presidential portraits. This look at presidential portraits is part 2 of a 2-part program.
The Portrait Gallery is not, above all, a museum of art. So many of the portraits, even those I do like and think work very well in evoking a presidency, might not show up in an art museum as art museum. So it's not about the art. It's more about that historical responsibility of memory, that for many people, the portraits that they see here, and remember, we want them to be important. To them, we want them to be done, best case, while the person was president, from life, on and on. As long as these factors are there, we're certainly going to consider showing it. Very often, there aren't very many portraits of presidents. That might surprise people and gets me into the question of what is a portrait, because there are many photographs of the modern presidents. And so we take what we can get and then have the discussion about what's not in the portrait as a way to understand that presidency too. Now let's talk a little bit about photographs and portraits, because of course every president is photographed these days, ever since photography was invented. And sometimes those photographs do very well, better than certain painted portraits, to evoke them. For example, Harry Truman. I think we have a rather pedestrian portrait of Harry Truman as painted, but I think we have an amazing photograph, the one most people know who knew Truman, which is Truman holding up the newspaper that says Dewey wins, and glowing with having outfoxed the pundits. That sort of thing is very important. However, there is something about, and I guess it's my job to explain what it is, and it's hard, about a painted or sculpted portrait that feels eternal. Doesn't mean sometimes that it's even as good as a photograph in evoking somebody, but it has that quality of something fixed for the ages. And also it has that quality of the cooperation between artist and subject. But there's a sense of a portrait not being, that is painted or sculpted, not being a moment in time, but all time. And the fact is the process of painting it took months too, so there's consideration and reconsideration and so forth. So we don't say we banish photographs from the National Portrait Gallery. We adore them and they're in our permanent collection. But to secure this notion of the universal presidency, the painted portraits seem to work the best.